Rain drizzled softly over the lonely graveyard, blurring the outlines of marble stones and forgotten names. A woman in a faded coat stood before one grave, clutching a small bouquet of wildflowers. Her shoes were worn. Her hands cracked from endless labor, but her eyes carried a gentleness that even grief couldn't erase. Every Sunday, without fail, Maria came to that same grave. It wasn't her family buried there. She didn't even know the woman's name until she read it on the tombstone years ago. Amelia Grace Turner, a heart that loved beyond measure. Maria would kneel, clean the gravestone, and leave flowers she picked from the roadside. And every time, she whispered softly, "I don't know who you were, but I pray you're resting peacefully. You must have been kind." To Maria, Amelia's grave wasn't just stone, it was a place of peace. A reminder that love, even if unseen, could survive hardship. One gloomy afternoon, as thunder rolled across the sky, Maria hurried through the cemetery, holding her tiny umbrella. When she reached the grave, she froze. Someone was already there. A tall man in an expensive black coat stood before the tombstone, a single white rose in his hand. His hair was damp, his face pale, but what struck Maria most were his eyes, full of a sorrow that no amount of money could hide. The man turned suddenly, noticing her. His voice was deep but trembling. Why are you here?" Maria hesitated, embarrassed. I come here sometimes, to leave flowers." "I didn't mean to intrude, sir." The man frowned, clearly puzzled. "Do you know her?" Maria shook her head slowly. "No, sir. I just saw her grave once. It looked lonely. I lost someone too, long ago. I guess I just didn't want her to be forgotten." The man's lips parted slightly. He stepped closer, staring at her as if seeing something long buried within himself. After a long pause, he whispered, "That's my wife's grave." Maria's breath caught. He looked back at the tombstone and sighed heavily. "Amelia, she passed away 3 years ago. I've come here less and less, I suppose. I buried myself in work to forget." He gave a hollow laugh, "But I could never forget. And yet you, someone who never knew her, showed her more kindness than I did." They stood there in silence for a long time, rain pattering gently over the flowers Maria had placed. Finally, Maria smiled faintly. "Maybe she just wanted you to meet someone who still believes in kindness, even without reason." The man Daniel Turner, CEO of Turner Holdings, had built empires, closed million-dollar deals, and lived in glass towers. But at that moment, standing beside a poor woman who gave what little she had to honor a stranger, he felt smaller than ever. "Thank you," he murmured. "You reminded me of something I forgot long ago, that love isn't measured by wealth or titles." The next Sunday, Maria returned again, expecting solitude. But when she arrived, the grave looked different. A fresh marble bench had been placed nearby, surrounded by roses and lilies. And sitting there was Daniel, waiting quietly, holding 2 cups of coffee. When Maria approached, he smiled. "I thought, maybe you'd like to sit with her today, ain't with me?" She hesitated, shy but touched. They sat together in silence for a while, watching the sun filter through the clouds. Over time, the 2 unlikely souls became friends. Daniel would bring fresh flowers every week, while Maria told stories about her late husband, how they had nothing but shared everything. Daniel, in turn, shared stories of Amelia, how she'd been a schoolteacher who loved wildflowers too. One day, Daniel confessed, "Amelia used to leave flowers on strangers' graves. She said no one should be forgotten." Maria's eyes filled with tears. "Then maybe I was meant to continue what she started." Months passed. Daniel began visiting Maria's small neighborhood often. He noticed the leaking roof, the broken porch steps, the faded curtains. Quietly, without her knowing, he arranged repairs through a community donation program he started in Amelia's memory. When Maria found out, she tried to refuse. "I don't need charity," she said firmly. Daniel smiled softly. "It's not charity, it's gratitude. You gave me back something I lost the ability to care." A year later, the cemetery looked transformed. Rows of flowers bloomed around Amelia's grave, and a new plaque had been added beside it, "For all the forgotten souls, remembered by love." Maria and Daniel stood side by side as the morning sun rose, illuminating the stone. He turned to her and said quietly, I used to think success meant power and wealth. Now I know it means leaving behind kindness that lives on." Maria nodded, tears glistening. "And kindness always finds its way back." They left the graveyard together that day, one a poor woman, the other a billionaire CEO, but both forever changed by a simple act of love for a stranger. No act of kindness is ever wasted. Sometimes the smallest gesture can heal the deepest wound and remind even the richest soul what true wealth really means. Thank you so much for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more content that inspires. Till next time, take care.